564th episode of Robservations, the show about something, is brought to you by the first annual Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival. Entries are due December 1st. If you get your entry form in by December 1st, you can have until December 15th to get your film actually in. But your application form must be signed by the 1st. Come on, man, you got a whole weekend. You got a weekend. You can make your film. You've got even 2 more weeks after that. You should make a movie. You should try. If you've ever wanted to do it, this is the festival for you. And tomorrow, for Thanksgiving, there's going to be stuff dropping on the hour, every hour, for quite some time. So, hey, what's not to love? Well, greetings, Imagination Connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your chancellor of cheerfulness, your pharaoh of physical media, and, of course, your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am robcasting at you Imagination Connoisseurs who make up this, the Post-Geek Singularity Evening. I was thinking about, Post-Geek Singularity Community. Evening? I don't know where that came from. Anyway, you know who you are. You know why you're here. And you know that you belong to this community. I have to say, a great weight has been lifted from my shoulders. The anxiety was palpable. In the age of COVID, there's been one thing, ladies and gentlemen, gentle beings, kind folks, however you identify from across these 28 known galaxies, there's been one thing that I have been obsessed with, that I have been just beside myself over. One thing this year. There's been one thing that has really pretty much dominated all of my thoughts. Now, I'm not making light of everything else that's happened this year, because the same thing was dominating my thoughts before there was an outbreak of a global pandemic. It has been the same thing since it has been announced. And thanks to Dieter Bastian in Saarbrücken, Deutschland, this anxiety that I've been feeling for over a year has been alleviated. And I'm going to share with you what has happened. Just before I went on this show, you know it. I bet you can guess. This is the second sight from the UK 4K Dawn of the Dead box set. Since this was announced, I've wanted this more than any other physical media release in the history of physical media. I wanted this. And now I have it. I have it, ladies and gentlemen. Christmas has come to my house today, and I am a Jew. I just can't tell you how happy this makes me. Somehow I think that maybe December will change. I think maybe the year, for me, this goes a long way towards saving 2020. I might not get to see the Eternals this month, but by God, I'll get to see Dawn of the Dead in a brand new remastered 4K edition. Woohoo! Boy, I'll tell you. Thank you. If I could only... I know, a lot of you are going, I've never even seen Dawn of the Dead. Well, let me tell you, it's one of my favorite films of all time. Very first bootleg video cassette I ever got, thanks to a man named Bud Warner. It was Dawn of the Dead, split over 2 videotapes, but I watched Dawn of the Dead a million times. As you all know, well, I can't reach it, but I have a fetish for Dawn of the Dead on optical disc, but all of those things, I can send them all away. There's no reason to keep my Dawn of the Dead collection of discs anymore, because now I have the definitive version, and I love it when that happens. It's a little banged up. I would like to have it came via Amazon Express. I know maybe Zavvi. I just, you never know when you're ordering something from overseas. It doesn't matter. It's the content. Thank you, Dieter. The great lifting weight of 2020 is off my shoulders, and I can get back to the business at hand. And the business at hand is to talk about yet more physical media that I cannot wait for. So as many of you possibly know or have been following, Francis Coppola has been using his time. He hasn't been making a new movie. I hope he gets to make his Metropolis movie that he's wanted to make for a long time. But he has been spending his time going back and revisiting his older films and putting out the definitive versions of those films. Earlier this year, we got Apocalypse Now, the final cut, where this is now the 3rd version of Coppola's Apocalypse Now. And this is, of course, the Blu-ray, the Studio Canal, actually 4K disc that came out. It's amazing. Followed up by, now this is an amalgamation of the theatrical version and the Redux version. He also went and revisited The Cotton Club, which is a film that had obviously a fitful production. There was murder, there was all kinds of money shenanigans involved. But more importantly, The Cotton Club was about a club of black performers and the people that surrounded that club, and a lot of the actual black performers that were in the film were marginalized and sometimes cut entirely from the film. Coppola went back and did his own restoration. Now, The Cotton Club is never going to be considered one of the great movies of all time, but it's certainly a much better movie than it was, and at least in my opinion. And this came out as well. This was a highlight for me to see this film in this form. I think it's terrific, and the song and dance numbers that were restored were very welcome addition to the film. But the thing that I've been most curious about of all of them is something that was announced around the time of Cotton Club, and that is this. The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Now, Coppola has obviously, over the years, he's talked about his displeasure with Godfather III. And it wasn't quite the film that he wanted to make. I mean, he did it for the money, obviously. And when it came out in 1990, God, I can't believe it's been 30 years. I was actually a fan of Godfather III. And I'll say this right now. It is by no means a bad movie. It is a disappointing sequel to Godfather I and Godfather II. Now, the things that have been mostly identified with this film as being its shortcomings, obviously Sofia Coppola came in at the last minute to fill in for Winona Ryder, who at the time was exhausted, whatever that meant. She'd been doing a lot of other films. She could not do Godfather III. She was later in Dracula, but she couldn't do Godfather III for Coppola for whatever reason. So Sofia Coppola came in and sort of pinch hit for her. The other big problem, and I think the biggest problem with Godfather III, is Robert Duvall wanted too much money, and they did not pay him to come back and play Tom Hagen. This is a fatal flaw of the film that I will admit that you can never surmount. The Godfather films, and I'll tell you, what the story should have been is it should have been about Tom Hagen and Michael Corleone vying for the soul of the family. And in a way, it might have been interesting if it was Michael Corleone who desperately wanted to take the family legitimate, and it was it was Tom Hagen who said, you know what? They have made ways of our business to become more legitimate than ever, and maybe more inroads into Vegas. I don't know what the story would have been, but it should have been about Tom Hagen and Michael vying for the soul of the family. And the rest of the movie could have played out very similar to how it played out. I do like Godfather 3 a great deal. There's some great set pieces, the Atlantic City attack. I love everything in Sicily. I love the ideas behind it. I love when Michael Corleone confesses, your sins are terrible. I love all that. And I do enjoy Godfather 3. It is not a movie that should be written off. It's deeply flawed, yes, but there's a lot to love. Well, when the CLUB ENCORE was coming out, Coppola was talking about revisiting Godfather 3 and doing some recuts and changing it around. And I thought that was, like, fascinating. That's, Paramount was going to let him go do that. And pretty amazing. So obviously, I'm eagerly awaiting this new cut of the film, which comes out, and it's going to get a theatrical release. This comes out in 2 weeks. I believe it comes out on December 8th. Certainly another shining jewel in the physical media that's being released toward the end of the year. Deadline reported about how this is getting a theatrical release before it's going to VOD. Mike Fleming wrote this on September 3rd. All of a sudden, I don't know why, but I can't seem to scroll down. I can't scroll down on this article. That's not good. I can scroll down on this article, but I can't scroll down on this article. And I don't know why. Maybe I can... Well, let me try and refresh. Maybe I can do it. Visit page. There we go. I don't know where it went. Now, apparently, I can see it. I don't know what happened. But anyway, Michael Fleming wrote this. And he wrote this on September 3rd. Francis Coppola has long wanted another crack at The Godfather Part 3, looking to shorten it in places and strengthen it in others, and change the title. He's been tinkering with that for a while as he recut versions of other films, including The Cotton Club, but he's always said he needed Paramount Pictures' blessing. Today, the studio announced it will release his new edit and restoration under the title Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. A little cumbersome title, but so what? The picture will be given a limited theatrical release in December, marking the 30th anniversary of the film's release. It will then find its way to digital home entertainment platforms. This means Coppola has now restored the films of his that he believed could be improved, and his fervent desires to get the chance to make the epic Megalopolis, that's what it was, which was close to production start before it was derailed by the tragedy of 9/11. I really want Coppola to make this last film. Or maybe it won't be his last film. Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone is an acknowledgement of Mario's and my preferred title and our original intentions for what became Godfather Part 3, Coppola said. For this version of the finale, I created a new beginning and ending and rearranged some scenes, shots, and music cues. With these changes and the restored footage and sound, to me, it is more an appropriate conclusion to The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, and I'm thankful that Jim Giannopoulos and Paramount for allowing me to revisit it. The third installment pales in comparison to the first two installments, considered among the best American films ever made. Still, the picture was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, as it followed a 60-ish Michael Corleone as he seeks to free his family from crime and find a suitable successor to his empire in a storyline that was Vatican-heady. Coppola and his production company, American Zoetrope, worked from a 4K scan of the original negative to undertake a painstaking frame-by-frame restoration of both the new Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, and the original Godfather Part 3. Mr. Coppola oversaw every aspect of the restoration while working on the new edit, ensuring that the film not only looks and sounds pristine, but also meets his personal standards and directorial vision, said Andrea Callas, Senior Vice President, Paramount Archives. In a lengthy interview he did for Deadline's Disruptors issue for the 2019 Cannes Film Festival, Coppola discussed how turning 80 made him want to see versions of his great films that pleased him the most. Here's a lengthy track in which he discussed his recut version of Apocalypse Now, Cotton Club, and his fervent desire to do a better version of that final Corleone installment. It's a bit sprawling, but who doesn't like reading about his recollections on the great films he made? Coppola felt emphatic that the performance of his daughter Sophia would be vindicated in the new version. You'll recall that he cast his daughter in her screen debut after Winona Ryder dropped out. So what happened with Apocalypse is they said it's too long. Now that I'm 80, I see a lot of this differently, but the first time they all said it was too long and I was this scared kid. Now often when a movie is too long, taking out time doesn't necessarily help, and sometimes putting more back makes it feel less long to the audience because they understand it better. I 100% agree with that, but it's not always true. But I was scared, so I said, we'll shorten it. And we did it as much as we knew how, and everyone said it was really weird. It's not like those big war movies, they said. I said, but the Vietnam War wasn't like those kinds of previous World War II movies. Whereas films usually had a New York sensibility. There was a guy from Brooklyn or Nick Conti playing a GI. Vietnam was a California war. It was surfers and drugs and rock and roll and the Doors. Apocalypse was the first movie to tackle the Vietnam War, but it took so long to cut that Deer Hunter came out before us. And then he goes on, I'm going to put this in here. It is a sprawling article, but I can put it into the live chat, which I will do. Although if I can, well, apparently not. I don't know, something's wonky going here. But if you want, the article is obviously called Francis Coppola's New Cut of Godfather Part 3 to get limited December theatrical release before VOD, September of 2020. So go check that out. So anyway, I've been wondering about Godfather 3. Like, I would wonder if Sofia Coppola is probably a much more accomplished actress, probably much better off now. Maybe she went and redubbed her whole performance, which I would not object to. I think I've really liked what he did with Godfather Final Cut, and I really like what he did with CLUB ENCORE, and I've always liked Godfather 3, and anything he can do to strengthen the movie. I don't think he can fix what I see as fatal flaws in the film, which, of course, the fact that there's no Tom Hagen, you can't fix that. But I think there's enough there that it's still a very respectable movie, and I think it's actually really good. Well, who am I to say if it's really good or not? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can say it when I've seen it. But interestingly enough, you know who can say if it was good? Hang on, I got to get it there. Diane Keaton, who plays Kay. Of course, the matriarch, well, the young matriarch became the matriarch. Not really the matriarch, but became part of the Corleone family. She has seen it. And in Variety today, Brent Lang wrote an article, Diane Keaton, watching the recut Godfather 3 was one of the best moments of my life. Not just that it was good, it was one of the best moments of her life. Now, I got to tell you, I mean, hearing her say that, I'm not going to lie, you know, makes all those special places in my body fill with blood, with excitement. I want to see this. I can't wait to get it. I mean, of course, I pre-ordered it. I understand they're not going to put out a 4K version until they put out the 4K box of Godfather, the Godfather saga, sometime probably next year. I don't know when. It was a call that took Diane Keaton by surprise. 3 decades after Godfather 3 opened to middling reviews and box office grosses, Francis Ford Coppola returned to the editing bay to tinker with a film that was largely dismissed as a disappointment. Coppola shuffled scenes around, changed music cues, and affixed a new beginning and ending to the 3-hour epic, now rechristened Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Now, he was inviting Keaton, along with co-stars Al Pacino, Talia Shire, and George Hamilton, to see the finished product at a private screening on the Paramount lot. It was one of the best moments of my life to watch it, says Keaton. To me, it was a dream come true. I saw the movie in a completely different light. When I saw it way back, it was like, oh, I don't know. It didn't seem to do that well, and the reviews weren't great, but Francis restructured the beginning and the end, and man, I'm telling you, it worked. It wasn't just critics and audiences who were cool to The Godfather 3 when it opened in 1990. Keaton was one of the people who found the initial film lacking. I don't know why people didn't appreciate it, but I was one of them. She admits. What was wrong with me? Why didn't I like this before? But I didn't. I just kind of dismissed it and thought, oh well, probably because Robert Duvall wasn't in it. She's convinced that Coppola's re-edit will make people reconsider the film as well as one of its most maligned elements, Sofia Coppola's performance as Michael Corleone's daughter Mary. The knives were out for Sofia Coppola when the movie premiered. She had barely any acting experience when she stepped in for an ailing Winona Ryder just prior to shooting, and reviewers excoriated her performance. Excoriated, by the way, is one of the great words of the English language. Excoriated her performance, calling it flat, amateurish, and unconvincing. That's not going to happen anymore, Keaton says, arguing the new edit gives Sofia Coppola's performance more of a chance to shine. She's what a daughter would be like if you had this guy as your dad, the head of a criminal organization. She was not so sure of herself and is kind of quiet, kind of haunted. I thought she was fantastic. Keaton said rewatching the film reminded her of the fun she had during its production. It took me back, said Keaton. At the time, I was kind of with Al. I really liked co-star Andy Garcia. We were shooting in Italy. It was a special time. I wonder what kind of with Al means. How are you ever kind of with Al Pacino? I don't know. The actress was even able to put aside her long-standing aversion to watching herself on screen. It's never fun to see me, says Keaton. I live with me. I don't want to see me on screen. Enough's enough. A little of me goes a long way. Despite being her own harshest critic, Keaton sees her work as Kay Corleone, Michael's estranged wife, as one of the highlights of a career that includes beloved films such as Reds, Annie Hall, and Something's Gotta Give. These are really powerful films, says Keaton. They're filled with this criminal world. There's an intensity and family issues. I think it's pretty easy to understand why they're loved. Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, will be available on demand and on Blu-ray on December 8th. However, Keaton hopes people will eventually be able to see it on the big screen, as she did that day on the Paramount lot. I just hope people can see it in a theater with great music and great sound so it can sweep you away, she says. I like movies big. I like them in my face. You're engrossed in them in that way. It takes you out of your mundane idiot life. I speak for myself, of course. God bless Diane Keaton. I agree. Every movie is better when you see it on the big screen. I don't care what the movie is. For that reason, she likes movies big. I like them in my face. You know what? I'm going to keep this. This is a great quote. I'm going to put this. I want a T-shirt that says, "I like movies big. I like them in my face. You're engrossed in them in that way. It takes you out of your mundane idiot life." I want that on a shirt. I think I'll make it. I'm going to make that into a Post-Geek Singularity shirt and put it up. You wait and see, along with the I like physical media shirts. There you go. Anyway, what I love about this, and look, movies are so hard to make. One of the things that's always fascinated me about how movies are made. Now, this sort of changed after Lord of the Rings. It certainly changed at the studio level. But there's this idea when you're making a big budget studio movie that you're capturing lightning in a bottle every single day. And the problem with the way movies are made now is the greatest enemy is time. It's not like Stanley Kubrick could shoot movies for a year because he didn't have that big of a crew. So he wasn't spending that much money with his he wasn't spending that much money when he made his movies, so he could shoot a lot longer. But the big enemy on any movie production, whether it's low budget indie, or even the biggest budget Hollywood picture, is there's never enough time. You can always do things better. And so your enemy is that, my God, I couldn't quite get this the way I wanted to get it. And you can't come back a lot of the time the next day and shoot because you have to move on. You have a schedule. And one of the most expensive aspects of making a film during the production phase is your day. Your day might cost $400,000 or $500,000 a day. A day. And you can't be like, yeah, we'll just shoot 2 more days. That's $1 million. I mean, it might seem like on a big Marvel movie like Endgame, what's $1 million? Look, it doesn't matter what movie you're making. Any movie that has $1 million overage, it's a problem. Because where's that money coming from, and where's it going to be made back? So it's problematic. So the idea when you're making these movies, and one of the things that's always amazed me about motion pictures, is they're as good as they are. The idea that you have to capture this lightning in a bottle. And in the case of Godfather III, I'm sure that they were rushed in the editorial process. There's already been 2 versions of Godfather III. There's the theatrical and there's a longer version. I think it's 9 minutes longer that came out on video. But it's tough. You can't just expect to capture lightning in a bottle, even though that's the way that's the way movies are made. Now, since Peter Jackson did pickups on the Lord of the Rings movies, that lasted sometimes 60 days. But still, the reason that those movies are as good as they are, and I happen to think they're wonderful films, is that they were very iterative. They were able to try things because Peter Jackson owned a lot of the equipment and things. He was very smart. He used his money and built infrastructure down in Wellington that they're still using today. He's a very smart man. So when the Lord of the Rings movies were being made, if they needed a shot of, I don't know, Gandalf on a horse, they could actually go out into the parking lot, throw up a green screen, shoot somebody on a horse in a Gandalf wig, and get the shot they needed. And that is a unique luxury that the Lord of the Rings movies had. And if you watch the documentaries that are not coming out this Christmas, unless you already have them, they will be out next year. But the documentaries, I worked on a team that created them. They're great documentaries, and they go into all that. And also, I didn't work on the Hobbit movies, but there's great documentaries in the Hobbit movies, too. My boss at the time, Michael Pellerin, was responsible for those things. And I think that nowadays, after Lord of the Rings, the idea that you could go back and now they even build in reshoots into the schedule. And, you know, calling them reshoots obviously insinuates that you are reshooting something that didn't work the first time. And I am as guilty of this as anyone. I say reshoots all the time just so people know. I think the term that I first heard back in working on Lord of the Rings, which is what they call pickups, is better. I mean, sure, usually when you go back and you reshoot things, or you can do that. I mean, you can see, look no further than, say, Avengers Endgame, when they go to Vormir on the planet to get the Soul Stone. There's a big scene where Thanos and his troops are right there, and there's a battle on Vormir. Well, they changed that, and they made it much more personal, but they got rid of Thanos, and they made it personal between Black Widow and Hawkeye, and I think it's a much better scene. Did I like the pulp aspects of that? Sure. But clearly they went back and that was a reshoot. They reshot that sequence. And that's fine. They figured out ways, and all movies during the editorial process is where movies are really shaped. And there are times you jettison things you shoot, you can't make things work that you thought would work, and you craft the movie in the edit bay. And I think that having reshoots built in, I mean, sometimes it's obviously cost prohibitive, especially if you're on expensive sets or you have locations you can't necessarily get back to. But reshoots are always beneficial. And sometimes, like I'll tell you, as the editor of Tango Shalom, I came up with something that a scene that was never shot, it was never scripted, that I mentioned to Gabe, the director, and I said, this movie is really lacking, and it was a character that was not in the climax of the movie, and I said, I think that we should put this character in the end of the movie, and he was like, well, how are we going to do that? I'm like, it's a reshoot. Not a reshoot, it's a pickup. And we did it in New York. We did it, it was not very long, it was like a half-day shoot, and for me, it makes the end of the movie. And nowadays, big Hollywood tentpole studio pictures usually build in pickups to their budget and schedules, because you want to be able to see what you've got, and you don't know what you've got until you start to see the movie come together. So I think that's a smart way to work large-scale tentpole properties, and if I could make it work on an indie scale, I would. I would say, look, I want to shoot this movie, I want to edit it for however many weeks, 10 weeks, 16 weeks, see where we're at, and have the option to maybe come back for a day or two and shoot anything that we need. And hey, if we don't need to do that, maybe then you can say that the movie was, if you budget up front for your pickup days or your reshoot days, and then you don't use them, you can add that or take that away from the budget of the film, which I think is always beneficial. And for those of you indie filmmakers out there, if you don't have to use your pickup days and they've already been budgeted, if they're already part of a line item budget, well, then you come in under budget. How good is that? Anyway, I'm very excited to see this recut of the film, because I think Coppola is one of those filmmakers. There's other filmmakers that have come out. Oliver Stone did 3 cuts of Alexander. And obviously there's multiple cuts of Ridley Scott's movies. The Abyss has the theatrical version and the extended director's cut. The Lord of the Rings movies have 2 versions. There's many, many different versions of films, and I kind of like that. And the home video era especially has made that possible because it's economically feasible. I as I've told everybody, I still would like to do my definitive version of Free Enterprise. You can see certain clips from my re-edit and recomposition of the film on the YouTube page, and I hope to do that one day. I'd love to make a 4K restored version of a new cut of the film. Hopefully I can do that. But I'm very excited for this. I wish it was coming out in 4K. But I'm going to buy the 4K Godfather set when it comes out anyway. So what's wrong with that? So there you go. I have many letters today, and why don't we just jump into those letters and see what it is we can find. What did you guys write in? A lot of letters, a lot of people writing in. So this one comes from Desmond. This one says, wow, okay. Hi, Toy Man. Thank you for consistently providing insights into the business side of the entertainment industry. I really appreciate that, especially when you exchange with John Campea. My questions: are there places you could recommend to obtain viewership numbers from online and offline shows and movies? I understand big online distributors and studios, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, and more, are not so open about their viewing numbers. At present, I'm using Google Trends to understand some sort of comparison to shows, movies, and searches. For example, when comparing the Mandalorian TV show searches versus Star Wars cartoon searches like Clone Wars or Rebels, it displays a significant user difference in volume, suggesting online searchers who are into the Star Wars animations represent a percentage of the wider viewer-going audience. Check the Google Trends charts for worldwide, which can be segmented by country. I noticed one of my previous letters was not read. Was the letter considered a bit much? It was a letter about mask wearing and some people claiming that mask wearing is leading into freedom limiting. Well, no, listen. Here's the thing, Desmond. Mask wearing to me and talking about, like, Dave Cullen. I really like Dave Cullen. I liked in his movies, his reviews, his Star Trek reviews. I read a lot of his stuff. Dave Cullen has kind of gone over, and he's been doing a lot of, and I watch all of his videos. He's been doing a lot of conspiracy theory stuff and talking about what all of this could mean. And it's very compelling stuff, especially if you go look into what he's talking about. But this channel, the Imagination Connoisseur channel, sometimes I get letters that I feel sort of skirt those issues, and I just feel sometimes if you send me a letter that's all politically minded, I tend to sometimes shy away from those. But I will definitely, since you wrote in and asked about it, I'll revisit your letter. But in terms of finding online, unfortunately, you used to be able to get in the trades or in Billboard magazine, or you could easily get information. But now, part of the reason that I think it's very hard to find legitimate streaming numbers, it really is, and it's frustrating. And the reason they do that is because I think the biggest reason is if Netflix puts on a show, look at a network show. So if you have network shows, all network shows have varying degrees of success. There's the top 10 shows, there's the top 20, top 30, top 40. And if you're, say, a bread and butter show that is in consistently the top 20, but it's not a top 10 show, well, that means that the creators of that show and the actors and everybody that work on that show understand there is an economic value to that show. How much money can the TV show generate with advertising dollars? So when it comes time to, say, renegotiate contracts, the people that are working on that show they know not to ask for the moon because their show will be canceled. They'll just end the show. But if you're in a top 10 show and your show is like a Friends or, I don't know, whatever, you pick your favorite top 10, top 5 show. If your show is one of those shows, well, that gives you economic leverage with the studio. So the showrunners and the people that are making the show and the actors themselves, well, they have bargaining power. Because no network wants to give up a top 10 show, and they know they're going to have to pay more to get it. And each year that a top 10 show is on, if the ratings stay the same, it becomes more valuable, and people got to get paid. And I think what's happening in Netflix and streaming shows, the reason they don't want those numbers out is because streaming has disrupted the whole idea of getting advertising and getting residuals and all of those things. And if Netflix were to tell you the viewer, they announced some viewer numbers, like The Queen's Gambit is the number one stream show ever. Well, you know why they can do that? And why Netflix says, hey, man, let's release these numbers. We're proud of these numbers. They're able to release those numbers because Scott Frank is not coming back along with Anya Taylor-Joy going, well, here's how much you're going to pony up for the Queen's Gambit Season 2, because there is no Queen's Gambit Season 2. It's based on a book, a novel. They adapted the novel, it's gone, just like Godless. You know, Godless was in and out, 7-episode miniseries, you're done. So it's not like Netflix has no reason why they can't release those numbers. But let's say you're an original Netflix show, and I don't know, whatever example, like The Crown. Big hit. You know, I know that was a co-production with BBC or whatever, but people got to get paid, you know, and when you're making a big hit, it ain't show friends, it's show business. And if you're profiteering off my work, got to pay me, son. That's what I need. That's why the streaming services don't release these numbers. They're not TV, they're not ad-based, they're subscriber-based, and they don't want creators of these programs to come back and hold them up for lots of money. I mean, Netflix is already deficit spending on their material. So, you know, they're spending more money than they're taking in to win these streaming wars. But they have no incentive to tell you what their shows are bringing in, what they're raking in, how they're doing, because that means that people can hold them up for more money. I get it, man. I get it. I understand. But I don't know where you can look for those numbers, because they just don't want you, they don't want you to know. I want to say now, Mike Bodden wrote something. He said, Mike Bodden is my business partner in this venture. He said, I think it might be worth noting that we're getting 20 to 40 letters a day, and I get about half of them. Mike answers some of the letters directly. Some are spam, and some are just not interesting or relevant to what we're talking about. Letters that are just about politics are not going to get through on the channel, no matter their bias, liberal or conservative. The Burnettwork and the Post-Geek Singularity are at our core value at this channel is about celebrating creativity and nostalgia, and not political tongue-wagging unless I'm the one doing the political tongue-wagging. There are other YouTube channels and blogs for that. But one thing that I wanted to relay to you imagination connoisseurs who want to diverge from genre entertainment in their letters, people who, you know, complain about things that aren't relevant to the channel, might find that none of the letters get read because Michael just flag them as spam and they get deleted before I see them. So, and I don't want to be, I mean, I like reading everybody's letters, but there has to be a time when I'm like, okay, this channel is for imagination connoisseurs. And while I think that I honestly believe that talking about mask wearing and all of that and limiting our personal freedom, I think these are very important conversations to have. I really do. I just don't think that this channel is necessarily the place where, unless we're talking about wearing masks in movie theaters, but the whole idea when it starts coming into limiting masks, is going to curtail your freedoms and things like that. It's hard for me to say because I don't necessarily think that's true. I believe in mask wearing. There's a reason why dentists and other doctors wear masks in general as part of their work, because you don't want to spread germs. I mean, it's simple as that. We live in a pandemic time, and sure, have as many people died as they said? No. Because that's because people have been, you know, behaving and all that. But I'm not really, and to be honest, I'm not really that well versed in politics. When I talk about politics, a lot of people think, you know, I get criticized for my takes. I mean, you know, I'm not an economist and I'm not a politician, and I don't necessarily understand government as much as I would like to. So when we weigh into just those topics, I'm a little out of my element, and I shouldn't be pontificating about them anyway, really, just because I don't know about them. I have no problem pontificating about Hollywood, but politics, not always the best thing for me. But I want to thank you for your letter, and I don't want to discourage you from writing in. Brendan Sheehy says, Dear Rob, I know you're a defender of Man of Steel, and to a lesser extent Batman versus Superman, but I have to say that both these movies utterly fail in their depiction of the character of Lois Lane. On paper, it should have been a home run. The casting of Amy Adams, one of the most talented actresses in Hollywood, was on point. Further, the age gap between Adams and Cavill is perfect, for reasons I shall delve into shortly, yet her character is completely flat. She's really only there to get rescued or further the plot along. Adams does her best, but she's given so little to work with. Overall, the character is a dud, and the chemistry between Adams and Cavill is tepid at best. The reason this irks me so much is because I consider Lois Lane to be one of the best female characters in comic book history. Here you have the strong, independent, no-nonsense, badass seasoned reporter whose obsession is uncovering the truth and exposing hypocrisy through her passion for journalism. She takes no shit from no one, whether they be meddling editors or superpowered gods. Her philosophy is that you can change the world through the sheer power of words and ideas rather than laser blasts and super strength. The relationship between Lois and Clark is also an interesting one that's largely unexplored in the DCEU. Clark is a naive cub reporter who is smitten by this worldly confidant pro and admires his strength and journalistic integrity. Lois, on the other hand, is a bit older and more cynical, but finds Clark and Superman to be kind of refreshingly adorable, maybe even adorkable. I think Lois being older than Clark is essential. Lois should be a mentor to Clark. Superman's virtue is born out of his adoptive parents' upbringing, his biological father's teachings, and of course, the influence that the more mature Lois Lane has over him in his formative adult years. This is why 23-year-old Kate Bosworth felt so unconvincing in Superman Returns. She felt more like Lois Lane's slightly annoying niece. Overall, the DCEU has thus far really done nothing to capture the magic of her character from the comics. Her inclusion feels more like an afterthought which merely plays lip service to the source material. I think now is the time for Lois to finally shine on the live screen. I would love to see a TV series focused entirely on her as a journalist without the campy cheese factor of the 90s show, where Clark and Superman is the supporting character. Who wouldn't want to see Lois Lane throwing out sass and sleuthing while she spends a series of long arcs trying to expose the biggest scoop in Metropolis, all the while balancing this with her unorthodox relationship with her superhero boyfriend who also happens to be her co-worker? Count me in. Well, Brendan, I like this letter. I agree with you. I do agree with you. As a matter of fact, I mean, you know, the problem that you have with a Superman movie in this day and age, and I think this is why it's so difficult to make a Superman movie in this day and age, is on one hand, a Superman movie sort of requires epic, apocalyptic, or giant stakes. And at the same time, you still want to see Superman and Clark Kent in everyday life interacting with the secondary characters of the whole Superman franchise. And I think that's a really tough act to follow. I think it's difficult to write that script because on one hand, how do you do funny, witty banter and interplay between, you know, his girl Friday kind of a thing back in the I shouldn't say that because Lois is not his girl, but that kind of thing, the pitter-patter of say, a 40s script, whether it's Double Indemnity or something like, well, later in the 50s, too, Sunset Boulevard or All About Eve. I see Lois Lane as a really spunky, fast-talking character who doesn't put up with any shit like you do. But how do you make that movie also be Man of Steel, where Superman takes on Zod, and there's world machines, world devastators trying to, you know, kick the world out, literally kick humanity off the world with these giant pulsating machines. And, you know, like you said, it's tough. That's a tough thing to do. And I love the idea of a Lois Lane TV series where she's sleuthing all over the place and Superman's a supporting character. I think it's awesome. I love that idea. I mean, they did have Lois and Clark, so I know that it was a different show, but I think where you're going, I really enjoy that idea. I really do. We'll see. Omar94 is here. Omar94 says, "Hi, Rob. I'm not sure if you'll do a show on Thursday because of Thanksgiving, so I wanted to write this in. Since the pandemic is still going on with some places going back into lockdown like the UK, we all need escapism in our lives, so I wanted to share this with everyone. As we all know, Disney has a theme park called Epcot. However, Walt Disney's original plan for it was to create an actual city, as Epcot is an acronym standing for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow." I know, it's an amazing... When I was working at Curdy Pellerin, I got to see all of the original Epcot stuff. It was amazing. If Walt Disney was able to realize his dreams of Epcot, we would be living in the future right now. It was amazing. The city was never made, but Disney intended it for it to be a harmonious place where everything was better, as the real world had too many problems to deal with. I think that is something everyone fantasizes about, where we want to live in a world where everything is better. As someone with depression and anxiety, I certainly do, but it doesn't exist, so you have to create the better world in my head. I've been doing that my whole life. Anyways, here's a link to a video of Disney showing his plan for Epcot. This is a great video, and if you're interested, everybody should watch it, and I will put it into the live chat. Let's see. There you go. I will also put in the comments section at some point after the show ends. I know it's not much to boost people's morale, but I just thought it would be something I could do to try and make people feel better. Thanks, and live long and prosper. Well, thank you for that, Omar. I very much appreciate that, and you're absolutely right about that. Like Captain Kirk said at the end of why am I drawing a blank on the episode title? Man, I'm losing it. This Side of Paradise from the first season, the one about Elias Sandoval with these spores, and at the end, Kirk says, "Another dream that failed. There's nothing sadder." That's what he said. And I'm reminded about that every time I think about Epcot. It would have been amazing to see that happen. This one comes from Jason Webster. Jason says, "Hi, Robert. I hope yourself and the exceptional members of the Post-Geek Singularity have had a great week and have wonderful weekend plans, whether it be exciting or restful. I see the Midnight's Edge journey through all 24 Bond films has begun with the recent episode tackling Dr. No. It was intriguing to hear Tom O'Connor's reaction to the film, and it is interesting to see the film from the perspective of a person who hasn't seen a Bond film before. He raised a lot of interesting points on the role of the film in serving the establishment of a franchise. Dr. No is the framework on which the franchise was built, much like the foundations on which a house is built over. With the next episode tackling From Russia with Love, that reminds me, supposedly we would be doing that tomorrow at 11. I don't know if I are, or if I were supposed to, but I don't think I can. With the next episode tackling From Russia with Love, it spurred me to think about the particular entry within the long-running franchise. We all know the story. James Bond is given a mission to go to the Turkish capital Istanbul to orchestrate and assist the defection of female Russian army officer Tatiana Romanov, Daniela Bianchi, who will bring with her a Lecter decoder. Bond discovers the defection is part of a plot by Spectre to lure 007 into the crosshairs of the assassin Red Grant. He wrote Red Fox, but it's Red Grant. Bond must successfully escort Tatiana to the West and foil the assassination attempt on his own life. From Russia with Love is the best Bond film featuring Sean Connery as 007. There are numerous reasons, including it plays more like a Cold War spy thriller. Like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the film is extremely close to Ian Fleming's original novel. The vivid and rich cinematography by Ted Moore, neat editing by Peter Hunt, and production design by Ken Adam are all excellent. The acting is good across the board, with Sean Connery and Robert Shaw being the standout performers. It establishes further the tropes that would become synonymous with the franchise: the gadgets, the gorgeous Bond girls, the exotic locales, and the thrilling action set pieces. It established the use of scantily clad women in a heavily stylized opening credit sequence. However, designer Robert Brownjohn was responsible for the sequence in From Russia with Love, as Maurice Binder was embroiled in a disagreement with the film's producers. That's a bummer. Desmond Llewellyn introduction as Q. The film is where Connery begins to settle into the role of James Bond and own it with his performances in Goldfinger and Thunderball. Within a 3-film span, Connery would be indelibly linked to the role and earmarked the definitive Bond by critics and fans alike. I think he was definitive even in Dr. No, too. Principal photography began on the 1st of April 1963 and was completed on the 23rd of August that same year. The scenes set in Istanbul included filming at the Basilica Cistern, Hagia Sophia, and the Sirkek railway station. Though not in the original Ian Fleming novel, the helicopter and boat chase scenes were filmed in Scotland
MI6 office, Spectre Island, Venice Hotel, Bond's climactic confrontation with Rosa Klebb, and the interior scenes of the Oriental Express were all filmed at Pinewood Studios in Ivor Heath, Buckinghamshire, England. What many people may not know is the film went over its scheduled completion date. One reason for the delay was that there were two separate accidents that occurred during filming. Firstly, while scouting locations in Argyll, Scotland, the helicopter carrying director Terence Young, art director Michael White, and cameraman crashed, though all escaped with minor injuries. Then actress Danelia Bonacci suffered minor facial bruising when a car transporting her to a 6 a.m. shoot crashed after the driver fell asleep at the wheel, resulting in a delay of filming requiring the actress to heal. An extremely sad postscript to this filming was that Pedro Armendariz, who played Ali Karim Bey in the film, committed suicide prior to the film's premiere due to having terminal cancer. From Russia with Love received its official premiere on the 10th of October in 1963 at the Odeon Leicester Square Theatre in London. That's where I saw Skyfall. Ian Fleming and Sean Connery were amongst those who attended. Its North American premiere would be held on the 8th of April 1964 at the Astor Theatre in New York. Despite going over schedule and budget, From Russia with Love earned $79 million worldwide against a budget of $2 million. The film received positive reviews from contemporary critics, including those from The Observer's Penelope Galat, The Guardian's Richard Rao, The New York Times' Bosley Crowther, and Time magazine. Even today, the consensus of critics has seen From Russia with Love labeled one of the finest in the history of the franchise. James Berardinelli said of the film, From Russia with Love is effectively paced and plotted, features a gallery of detestable rogues, including the ultimate Bond villain Blofeld, and offers countless thrills. In 2004, Total Film magazine named From Russia with Love the 9th greatest British film of all time. It was the only Bond film to appear in the list. Director of photography Ted Moore won awards for Best Cinematography from the BAFTA Awards and the British Society of Cinematographer Awards. The film also was nominated for Best Song at the Golden Globe Awards. It will be intriguing to see how Tom responds to this film and his review of the film during the panel discussion. I hope yourself and the tubular members of the Post-Geek Singularity stay safe and happy over the weekend. Sincerely, Jason Webster. Well, Jason, what a great summation of From Russia with Love. You know, it's one of my favorite Bond songs. From Russia with love, I fly to you. Much wiser since my goodbyes to you. I've traveled... No, I'll spare you the rest. Anyway, there you go. Dean Mikitich writes in. Dean Mikitich says, Hi, Rob and the PGS. With all the current TV shows on, The Expanse is my favorite. This is because it's a well-written show that does not have all the current-day wokeness that you find in, say, current Star Trek. Unlike current Star Trek, the science used in the show is spot on, especially when it comes to the physics of space travel and space battles. While each season has not been focused on one book, it has been very faithful to them. For PGS members that have not read the books, Season 1 is mostly based on Book 1, but does bring in elements of Book 2. Season 2 completes the story of Book 1 and then starts on Book 2. Season 3 finishes off Book 2 and completely tells Book 3. Season 4 tells the complete story of Book 4. But because this book mainly takes place outside the Sol system, elements of Book 5 are brought in to show what's going on back on Earth, Mars, and the Belt. That's what I liked about the fourth season, is it did bring in a lot of elements from the fifth book. Going by the trailer for Season 5, they are combining Books 5 and 6. So it will be interesting to see how they do this. However, as Rob stated in episode 563 of Robservations, from Book 7, there's a 30-year jump in time. And with the news that Season 6 will be its last, I'm going to go out on a limb and suspect that the final sixth season will mostly focus on the back end of Book 6. Though if they do the 30-year jump mid-season for Book 7, it will be interesting to see what they do. But with Book 7, like Book 4, it is mostly contained in one location, but it is also a setup for Book 8, a book I have yet to read, but will doing so before the year is out. So ending the series at the start of a new story seems a bit strange. If they don't do Book 7 for Season 6, maybe in 30 years' time they can get the cast back together again to finish off the final trilogy of books. As for Cass Anvar not being signed back for Season 6 due to multiple allegations of sexual harassment made against him, I'm not sure what to think, as it is only hearsay at this point. But what happened to innocent until proven guilty? Sorry, that's been suspended until further notice. Should he not stay on the show until otherwise proven he's in the wrong? No, don't get me wrong. I don't know who's making these allegations, but I suspect it's no one from the show. The reason I have to say this is because Cass Anvar had posted on his YouTube site behind-the-scenes footage of his day during Season 3. He's filming it himself. Everywhere he goes, he's greeted friendly, and no one is giving him a dirty look. Even footage that he has not shot, you can see that everyone working on the show is a close-knit group. I also find it highly unlikely anything happened after Season 3 because this was in the middle of the Me Too era, and he would be a dumbass to do anything during this time period. Come on, man, you're a dude. You get it. Dudes are dumb, especially when it comes to, Again, I know nothing about what made these multiple allegations of sexual harassment actually are or who made them. I am surprised that showrunners and everyone that is working on the show is not supporting him during this time, especially since he was the one who was campaigning hardest to get it back, and he is directly responsible for getting The Expanse back onto Amazon. Why do I say this? During the Save the Expanse campaign, he played a vital role. He got most of the cast together and arranged that they would all be at a dinner award ceremony for Jeff Bezos, and Jeff Bezos is a fan of the show. Cass, along with the cast. By the way, I would love to know whether it's Jeff Bezos or Jeff Bezos. I've heard both. What is the proper pronunciation? Kaz, along with the cast, were able to have a chat with Bezos. I'll say both in this chat, so you can correct me. And they could see he was on the fence on whether to pick up the show. Kaz happened to have a copy of an Expanse comic. He got everyone to sign it and give it to Bezos. In Kaz's words, Jeff spent the rest of the dinner on his phone texting. Apparently something he never does unless it's important. By the time for Bezos to step up and accept his award, he announced that the Expanse had been saved and the entire room went nuts. That, my friends, is a true story. So without Cass Anvar going the extra step, the show may not have been saved, which would have meant that the whole production team and actors would have to look for new work. So in a way, they do owe him in that they would have been able to save their jobs for 3 years now. With Cass Anvar not returning for Season 6, does that mean they're going to recast his character or just write him out of the show? I'd suspect they'll write him out. I can't see the character being written out as he is a major part of the crew in the story, so recasting them seems to be the only option the showrunner might have. But that leads to the problem. Will the audience accept another actor playing Alex Kamal? I'm going to say no because it never really worked in the past, especially when it's a final season of a show. Just like Chris Pine playing James T. Kirk, it's not the same. And Kirk will always be associated with William Shatner. Alex Kamal will always be associated with Cass Anvar. If Cass Anvar does turn out to be innocent and these allegations turn out to be false, his reputation has been tarnished and he has lost his job and possibly future work as no fault of his own. Would Amazon Alcon Entertainment compensate him for lost earning? Anyways, to lighten up the mood a bit, if any Post-Geek Singularity members have not read the books, what are you waiting for? They are very good books and easy to read. The series is made up of 3 trilogies, though you can read any book on its own. The final book in the series, Leviathan Falls, which is due to come out this time next year. So as Rob would say, get on it, son. Actually, I got that from John Schnepp. Finally, as For the Book series is coming to an end, Daniel Abraham and Ty Franick, the writers behind the pen name James S.A. Corey, have stated they won't be doing any new Expanse novels soon as they are planning a new fantasy sci-fi series as their next project, but they did state they'll be combining all of their Expanse short stories into a single book, and it won't be the last we've seen on the Expanse universe. As for now, I can't wait for December 16th so I can start to enjoy Season 5 with my fellow Peltaloda. Yes, peace and long life, Dean Mikitich. Well, Dean, that's a good letter. Thanks for writing in. Let's see. Hang on. Let's see. If we look at this, what does it say? Let's find out. I'm looking for... This is from Deadline. This is from Deadline, June 29th, 2020. The Expanse star Cass Anvar will cooperate with investigation to refute sexual misconduct allegations. The Expanse star Cass Anvar on Monday morning issues a statement regarding the independent investigation into sexual misconduct allegations that was launched by a series studio, Alcon Entertainment. I welcome the independent investigation. I respect that the women who have come forward should be heard, and I will make myself fully available to participate in the process as appropriate so that I may refute these very serious claims that strike at the core of what I value, he said. The The controversy snowballed over the last couple days, with more women coming forward, sharing their stories on Twitter, including screenshots of what they say were inappropriate messages from Anvar. None of the alleged sexual assault incidents happened on the set of the Sci-Fi series, which was picked up by Amazon after its cancellation by Sci-Fi, with multiple cases involving fan conventions. Daniel Abraham, one of the co-authors of the Expanse book series, which the TV show is based on, revealed that after they found out a cast member had been accused of sexual misconduct, they immediately passed these serious accusations onto the studio, Alcon. Alcon has engaged an independent firm to investigate this matter and takes these allegations very seriously. The account of James S. Corey, the pen name of authors Abraham and Ty Franck used for the Expanse series, also tweeted news of the investigation, thanking the women who spoke up. Alcon affirmed to Deadline that the company very recently became aware of the allegations and immediately hired an independent investigator, declining comment on an ongoing investigation. A rep for Anvar has not responded to an email seeking any comment. The accusations against Anvar gained visibility in a Reddit thread, which aggregated all claims and also featured Abraham and Corey's tweets and reactions from the Expanse cast members. That includes Dominic Tipper, whose statement was posted through the Corey's account, Stephen Strait, and Wes Chatham. Wes Chatham says, the past few days have been a whirlwind, but I want you to know that you are heard. I'm committed to advocate for those who have been mistreated at a place and time where all voices should be heard and accusations should be treated seriously. So there you go. If I might editorialize for a moment, pro tip, if I can call myself a pro. The fan community that exists now is not a place where people should ever use their... Well, look, fans love stars. When you go to a convention or you go to San Diego Comic-Con, it's always a thrill. It's even a thrill for me to meet celebrities that are part of things that I love. Now, they're people. And they are people that if you find yourself the star of a fan favorite show and go to a convention or go to any place where you are going to be feeling the adulation of people, it feels really good and it is very intoxicating, and you will receive very many interesting offers. My advice is this: don't take them. When you're at a convention, if you find somebody that you think you might have a connection with, take their number. Take their number and wait until the convention's over and maybe call them afterwards. I would say the same thing is true when you're making a film. If you're an actor or you're a crew person, movie sets, especially on location, are randy places. There's a lot of shenanigans that get down. Everybody works hard. Everybody plays hard. And on movie sets, you can usually, for the most part, both parties are usually very aware of what's going on. But when you go to a convention, a lot of the time when you're a guest, you don't understand really what people on the other end, when they meet you and say you're a guy and you connect with a girl, a fan who's there, who's coming to see you, and that person is extremely attractive and you're really hitting it off. All I can say is, as difficult as it might be, and it can be difficult sometimes. Anyway, don't do it. Don't do it, because the fan community now, I think on one hand, there's a lot more different kinds of people that are involved in fandom, but there's a lot of people that are a lot less experienced than they were about a lot of certain things. So my advice to anybody who finds themselves, whether you're a comic creator, whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're a TV star, whatever you are, if anything has brought you into the fan world and you find yourself at these conventions where people are showering you with praise, wanting to buy you drinks, that's all well and good. But don't abuse that privilege. Just understand that, enjoy it for what it is. Be kind, be courteous, accept, that's why you're there. And if you choose to interact with fans, remember you're interacting with people that believe you are the best thing since sliced bread. You do not want to dissuade them of that opinion. Be nice, be courteous, be caring, be thoughtful, be polite, be gracious. But don't take it further than that. And if you do want to take it further than that, wait till after you're away from the adulation and the booze. And after the convention has died down, then wait and call someone. Get in touch with them afterwards. But conventions, if you've never been to one, I know what it's like, man. If you're in a fan favorite series or something, just put on the brakes. That's what I would offer. That's my wise pearl for the day. I know. I know. You live once, right? Let's see who is here and where are they. Philip Alvarez. By the way, Philip Alvarez sent us a letter for Let's Get Physical Media, which I'm not going to read here because this is not that show. But he did write us one. Philip Alvarez said, "Hello, Rob. You and Dieter would be, I think you mean, would be happy to know that I purchased my first movie from Stinky Tuna, an HD version of True Lies. I sent a letter to that show also. Any pick for the 100th episode? Either way, I'll be here with my 6-pack. All right. I love that you drink a 6-pack. Do you drink it all during the show? For those of you who don't know, we are doing our 99th episode. We didn't do it last night. We're doing our 99th episode of Whining About Movies tonight, about Sidney Pollack's 1982 Tootsie, one of my favorite romantic comedies or dramedies, however you want to look at it, ever. And then our 100th episode is going to be Saturday night. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know. We're still taking suggestions. So if you have any idea of what we should do Saturday night, please tell us. Because I can't believe we've done 100 episodes. I can't believe that we did the 17th episode of 6 of 1 today. Crazy. But I'm glad you're going to be there, Philip. By the way, there will be a new episode of Let's Get Physical Media dropping the next couple days. And tomorrow, the film festival is going to be bumping. A lot of new movies are going up all day tomorrow. There's even holiday songs, all kinds of things. It's going to be fun. Sean M. is here. Sean M. says, Rob, my suggestion for next level stuff is to have Mike Stoglasa on your show. Any possibility? I've never reached out to Mike. I love Red Letter Media. I love them when they were new. I had discovered their Generations review. I think their Generations review was the only thing they had done. They hadn't even done all the Next Generation movies. I was like, the dudes that did this Generations review, Mr. Plinkett, I didn't know who's behind Mr. Plinkett. I didn't know much about Red Letter Media. I was like, these people, whoever did this review, parked their shuttlecraft in the same shuttle bay. I'd love to have him on. I don't know if he would grace me with his presence, but I really love those guys. They're two of my, well, not all of them, everybody at Red Letter Media, one of my favorite sites on the web, and it has been for quite some time, along with the Oral Knots. I love the Oral Knots as well, and I'd love to have them on, too. I don't know if they show their faces or they're like Daft Punk. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think, Sean, that's a good idea. George sends in a tip and says, Rob, Cinema Blend just dropped news that Joss Whedon is leaving his upcoming HBO show, The Nevers. What the fuck? I was so excited for this show because it's a Whedon creation. What happened? Is this because of the Ray Fisher mess? I feel terrible. Well, you know what? I'm going to look into that. I'll look into that right now. Let's see what is said. Let's see if anything is on Deadline. Yep. Let's read the Deadline article. The only reason I'm reading the Deadline article is because this was posted this hour. This dropped less than an hour ago. This is breaking news. It was posted by Peter White on Deadline at 4:06. So not even 40 minutes ago. Joss Whedon is leaving the HBO drama The Nevers. Whedon was set to co-write and direct the science fiction drama about a gang of Victorian women who find themselves with unusual abilities, relentless enemies, and a mission that might change the world. The drama is still set to air in September of 2021. It was handed a straight-to-series order by the premium cable network in the summer of 2018. The Nevers was to mark the first TV series for Whedon since he co-created ABC's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the first solely created by him since the cult 2009 Fox drama Dollhouse. Before that, he created the hit Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Firefly, both of which developed a devoted following that remains strong. Buffy spawned a successful spin-off series. Then it goes on to talk about who is in it. Here's the press release. We have parted ways with Joss Whedon. We remain excited about the future of The Nevers and look forward to its premiere in the summer of 2021, an HBO spokeswoman said in a statement on Wednesday. This year of unprecedented challenges has impacted my life and perspective in ways I could never have imagined. And while developing and producing The Nevers has been a joyful experience, I realized that the level of commitment required moving forward, combined with the physical challenges of making such a huge show during a global pandemic, is more than I can handle without the work beginning to suffer, Whedon noted. I am genuinely exhausted, and I am stepping back to marshal my energy toward my own life, which is also at the brink of exciting change. I'll bet it is. I'm deeply proud of the work we have done. I'm grateful to all my extraordinary cast and collaborators, and to HBO for the opportunity to shape another strange world. The Nevers is a true labor of love, but after 2+ years of labor, love is about all I have to offer. It will never fade. You know, I don't want to be cynical about this, and so I'm not going to be. Working on a TV show for 2 years and not having anything to show for it, maybe they weren't able to shoot what they wanted to shoot, I don't know. And, of course, the Ray Fisher thing and these allegations, which he's having to, you know, here he's being investigated by the very studio that he's working for the allegations Ray Fisher made. I don't know Joss Whedon. I've never met the man. I've really admired his work. I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. I liked Firefly a great deal. I like Dollhouse. I think that a lot of what he's done and what he's created has been amazing. But you know what? When you get embroiled in these investigations, all of a sudden I know because to my own, I've been involved in 2 major kerfluffles as far as the law is concerned and investigations in my professional life. And both times they've been with collaborators I work with. One was with Agent Cody Banks that ruined my life for 6 years and cost me literally hundreds of thousands of dollars and wiped out all the money I had saved for the rest of my life. And it was a terrible experience, and it was needless and stupid. And it was because of our collaborator, I'll say his name, Danny Gold. And if I can, hey, Danny, fuck you, you little prick. I can say that. And I don't think that he would come after me for me saying that because he knows he was a prick. Fucking asshole that turned on his own partners, even after we got 2 movies made. So fuck you, Danny. So I know what that's like. Also, you know, my former collaborator on Axanar. Not only did I stand by his side when we went through a big court case, but then he turned around and lied and sued me, the guy who did literally almost all of his work for him. And I know what that's like. And it weighs heavily on you because suddenly you're not focusing on your work. You're fighting needless, I don't know what. But I don't know what happened to Joss Whedon. I know that putting on a TV show during a pandemic and working on something for 2 years and having nothing to show for it is incredibly frustrating. I don't know about his allegations. I don't know anything about him personally. I've never talked to anybody personally or directly about any of his behavior. I know people say, oh, it's an open secret, whatever. I've never heard that. So I can't speak about Joss Whedon at all. And I always tend to give people the benefit of the doubt anyway. I just think what he said, maybe he just had it. You know, he's working. It is too hard to work in the entertainment industry without distraction. And when you are being distracted and people are impugning your ability or coming after you and saying all these terrible things, man, I don't blame Joss Whedon for walking away. Whatever, I'm sure that maybe he was fired. Maybe he just walked away on his own. I don't know. I think ultimately, to me, what's unfortunate is we're going to lose a show that sounded interesting to me. And Joss Whedon has proven himself as a director and a collaborator. And think about the world that we live in. I mean, you can direct 2 movies that make $1.5 billion. You can create Buffy, you can create Angel, you can create Dollhouse, you can become a fan favorite and a celebrity that everybody loves. and you can do all the work in the world. But you know what? If your professional life, it can torpedo everything. So this is a very crazy business. And I don't know what to say about that, but what a bummer. I'm as bummed out as you are. I'm as bummed out as you are, George. And I feel terrible too. I don't know. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, seeing the thumbnail reminds me of my best buddy from college. Not only is he a lover of all things Godfather, but also an accomplished guitar player. For a Christmas present one year, I combined the two things by getting him an Art Chop, is that the Art Chop jazz box guitar that had a quilted top made of curly maple. Because he named all of his guitars, this one was named K after Diane's hair in Godfather III. That's awesome. And Kay had some hair in Godfather III. Yes, she did. Cameron Cloutier, is it Cloutier? I hope the scene from the theatrical trailer is included where Andy Garcia spits on Eli Wallach at the opera and says, I'm a Corleone. I hope so, too. If it's in the trailer, maybe it is. Who knows? We got some new members here at the channel. Warren Wright became a member, and Fearter became a member. Captain Opinion became a member. Thank you all. By the way, for those that have become, we have enough members now that, which is great, and I really appreciate the ongoing support of the channel, that I'm going to start making some stuff available to members only. I know, I'm becoming an elitist, but the first thing that I'm going to make available is my drunk Moonraker commentary. For those of you who don't know, it was not last summer, it was the summer before, or it might have been, maybe it was 2 summers, I don't remember. I got hammered. I was going to do drunk Bond commentaries, and I got wasted. I drank Jameson and probably 2 bottles of wine. I was wasted, and I did commentary on Moonraker where I filmed myself. I'd walk over in front of my TV and while the movie was playing, and I would give commentary. The commentary is not insightful, and it's rather worthless, but I think people have asked about it over the years, and I was hammered when I did it. So I cut it all together. It's not a continuous commentary. It's going to be edited because I didn't do it continuously. I would only get up and basically it's me just blathering on about something. But I think I'm going to put it up. And I'm going to put it up for members only. I was going to put it up a while ago, but I figured, as a professional who's trying to, me professional, but no, there are things that I'm professional about. I was trying to, I was going to have some fun. It was when I was still doing Ripped with Rob early on in the channel's history, which I would actually like to do again. Maybe those will be, maybe I'll bring Ripped with Rob back as a member chat thing too. But the drunk commentary will be for every membership level. So even if you join for 99 cents a month, everybody should be able to watch the drunk commentary. And I'm putting it up because why not? Jeff Yerke sends in a tip. Hello, Jeff. Jeff says, hey, Rob, in keeping with the running focus on James Bond, Mrs. Y and I watched the 1963 Bond wannabe charade with Cary Grant. Ugh. I'd never seen it and was both excited and disappointed with its Bond ripoffs. Have you seen it? Dude, I used a clip from Charade in Free Enterprise. I love Charade, but I wouldn't call it I don't think it's so much a Bond ripoff. I think it's more of a Hitchcock homage. Stanley Donen directed it. Walter Matthau, Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn. I love Charade. I really do. I think it's great. It's great. I love the fact that I don't think anybody, certainly no one on this channel, talks about their wife more than you do. You two must be in love. You lovebirds. One day I hope to hang out with you guys. We got to get you guys and Claude and Candida together, along with Elizabeth and I. We'll have a not in a lascivious way. We should all go out to dinner and drink a lot of wine. I know some people. I know Vess is like, hee. No. Evan Newman is here. Evan Newman says, had Tom Hagen returned in Godfather III, what would have been a fitting conclusion for his character? He was probably the best of the Corleone sons, but he wasn't really a son, so he was to play second fiddle to lesser men. A tragedy. Well, I think there's your story, Evan. the story is that Tom Hagen and Michael Corleone were then Michael Corleone was the Godfather, but I think they should have had a fundamental difference. And what would have been interesting is that Michael's dream was to take the family legitimate, whereas Tom Hagen's dream was that a lot of the criminal empire that the Corleone family had built became legitimate. So why not stay in their bit, like become a casino magnate? You know, why are we divesting ourselves from the casinos when Las Vegas is turning into a gold mine? Why don't we expand into Vegas and really get rich? And Michael Corleone's like, no, in my bid to take over International Immobiliari, I don't want to. And Tom Hagen could have been like, Michael, that's great, but you're not legitimate. You've never been legitimate. And it would have been a great thing to see those two men battling for the soul of the family. They love each other like brothers. Vito Corleone is their hero, and yet they become mortal enemies. That's what I think Godfather 3 should have been about, and could have been interesting, and it would have been a tragedy. Trent sends in a tip and says, "Hi, Rob. I hope you're well. If you could ask J.J. Abrams one question about his 2 Star Wars movies, what would you ask him? Personally, I kind of enjoy The Force Awakens, but The Rise of Skywalker is the most disappointing movie of my life. I can't stand it. Be well." Well, Trent, Return of the Jedi was the most disappointing movie of my life. I know, people forever. But if you were me seeing Star Wars at 10 and Empire at 13, by the time I was 16 years old, and, you know, I was like, I knew everything at 16. I was expecting War and Peace. I was expecting Lawrence of Arabia. I was expecting something really, really epic. And Return of the Jedi was not that. Yes, did I like the rescue of Han Solo? Sure. And I liked the confrontation with Luke and Vader and the Emperor. But that's it. I mean, yeah, what about the speeder bike chase? I don't care. What I want is characters and story, and I was expecting something epic, something Shakespearean. I didn't get that. So, what would I ask J.J. Abrams? I guess I would ask him, why didn't he and Lawrence Kasdan sit down and plot all 3 movies? Like, wouldn't that have been something to do? And I think, look, I don't know this. I have no insight into this. But I'm willing to believe that I'll bet, like, J.J. Abrams, him and Lawrence Kasdan worked together, and then it was J.J. who kind of ran with it. But I don't know. I if I was J.J. Abrams and had the opportunity to make Star Wars, I would have sat down with a team of people, and I would have sat down with all of them and said, okay, let's beat this movie out. And let's beat out the other 2 movies and put it and figure out what we're going to tell. Figure out the great epic story that we're going to tell. And I'm sure he would have the answer to. I got to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story. I can't tell you who told me the story. But this is too good of a story. No, you know what? I can't tell the story. I know I don't want to be that way. You know what? I'm going to ask if I have permission to share a certain story, because I might have to leave the names of the people involved in the story out. It's just a quick story, but it's something that almost happened but didn't. And I you know what? If I don't want to tell the story unless I ask to make sure it's okay. But I've been thinking about nothing else for the last 24 hours. Nick Markins sent in a super chat and says, "Hello, Rob. I don't think I've heard recently, and I just tuned in tonight, but have you gotten your hands on that new 4K Dawn of the Dead box set yet?" Well, Nick, it's funny you ask, and you just tuned in. But to answer your question, Yes, I did. I haven't even opened it yet. I haven't even cracked off the cellophane. I literally got it right before I went on the show. I got off my prisoner show, and I went and got this. Thanks to my compatriot at Let's Get Physical Media, Dieter Bastian, made sure I got this. Oh my God, I could cry. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. But tune in this week on Let's Get Physical Media. Actually, it's not this week's show. It'll be next week's show where we talk about this. But oh my God. Thanks for that super chat, Nick. Danny Fairs has subscribed to the channel. Thanks for subscribing, Danny. Something weird, by the way, has been going on Facebook for the last 2 months with subscribers. I've had people, I never thought, it was weird. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, subscribe. But if you have subscribed to this channel, see if you're still subscribed, because my subscribers have not moved in a month and a half. They keep dumping people, and then people come back, and I don't know what's going on. Really weird. Joseph said, check this out. Joseph said, "Oh, hi, Rob. I'm shocked and surprised you still haven't watched any of Stargate SG-1. It's right up your alley. If Pandemic doesn't make you watch it, nothing will. I'll tell you what will make me watch it. Netflix. Netflix is getting Stargate. I'll watch it. Also started watching Queen's Gambit. It's really fascinating and exciting for a chess show." I think so too, Joseph. It's amazing. And Rob, concerning Army of Darkness, why is the beginning of that movie not consistent with Evil Dead 2's ending? Also, which ending of Army of Darkness is canon? Ash waking up in modern times and going to the S-Mart, or him oversleeping a century more than he should? Okay, as many people know, I worked on Army of Darkness. I was a special effects production assistant. And I think, I think part of the reason the movie is called Army of Darkness is they wanted it to stand alone, because both Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 were not exactly box office bonanzas, but they thought that they were worth doing. And I think like the S-Mart introduction and the S-Mart outro was filmed later, so they could have those wraparounds for audiences that didn't know the Evil Dead movies. So, and to me, what's canonical is when Ash oversleeps and modern civilization is destroyed. But that's my original ending. But of course, the S-Mart ending was later shot. So, for me, canonically, it's the waking up 100 years later ending. But I know that the way it really ends for people is with the S-Mart. But I think it's the other way around. Justin Toner's here. Hi, Rob. A few years ago, my friends and I did a Godfather marathon on a Sunday. All 3 films took us about 11 hours with breaks in between. We had pasta and cannolis to eat. It was the best. Looking forward to the new cut of part 2. You mean part 3. It's part 3. Happy Thanksgiving. Well, thank you, Justin. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Matthew sends in a tip and says, regarding Joss Whedon departing the Nevers, they've just wrapped the first season of the series. And the season will be on air next year. He just won't be involved in any of the subsequent seasons. If there are any, it's really sad. Well, listen, I didn't realize that. So if we are getting a full season, then at least we're getting a full season from Joss. So that's a good thing. So that's, wait, what? Alexander Wilson says, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. Alexander Wilson says that Godzilla vs. King Kong is going directly to HBO Max. Really? Hang on. Man, well, let's see. Here we go. This just dropped at 4:09, so a little less than an hour ago. Kim Masters, Godzilla vs. Kong is likely the latest tentpole to go to a streamer. Netflix made a bid of more than $200 million, but Warner Media is prepping an offer to send the legendary sequel to HBO Max. Godzilla vs. Kong, the forthcoming monster movie from Legendary Pictures, looks likely to be the latest big franchise movie to head to a streamer. Knowledgeable sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that Netflix has made an offer of more than $200 million for the film, while Warner Media has blocked the deal while preparing an offer of its own for its streamer HBO Max. Legendary declined to comment, while a Warner Brothers spokesperson said, "We plan to release Godzilla vs. Kong theatrically next year as scheduled." Ooh. The Netflix offer undoubtedly had a lure for Legendary, which financed 75% of the budget. As Netflix does not have a presence in China, the film could have played theatrically there. The MonsterVerse movies, which are the cornerstone of Legendary's slate, are big international players, especially in China. Just over a third of King of the Monsters' $386 million global box office cum came from the movie's China release. Skull Island grossed $186 million in China, about 30% of the movie's $567 million gross. Godzilla vs. Kong, the fourth entry in the series, is slated for a May 21st, 2021 opening. But it is far from clear that U.S. theaters will be fully back in business by then, and even if they are, the studios face a massive pileup of major releases that were pushed due to the pandemic. Meanwhile, Legendary is stuck with the cost of carrying an unreleased big-budget film. Though Warner Brothers has only a 25% stake in the movie, it controls the release. Decisions on the movie's fate are being handled at the highest level, with Warner Media's CEO Jason Kilar and Warner Brothers chairman Ann Sarnoff figuring out an offer for a streaming release on HBO Max that in theory also includes a theatrical component. On November 18th, Warner Media said that tentpole Wonder Woman 84 would bow in theaters on December 25th and be available to stream on HBO Max in a deal that Kilar described as unprecedented. Well, I would like to see that movie in a theater. I loved Godzilla vs. King of the Monsters. I really did. But, hey, these is the times that we live in. Anyway, wow, that's interesting. Alexander, thanks for writing in. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, kind sirs, gentle beings from across the 28 known galaxies, however you identify, I'm going to bring this episode of Robservations, episode number 564, to an end. I will be back online in 2.5 hours with Elizaviews, whining about movies for Tootsie. So join us then and there. I want to thank my moderating staff. I want to thank Mike Bodden. I want to thank Greg Smith. I want to thank The Richard. I want to thank everybody else. Robert Priso, Joshua Levesque is here. Thank you guys for being here. MC Blackcap is here. You guys are the best. The cornerstones, the three musketeers of moderators today. Thank you, gentlemen. I very much appreciate that. And on a personal note, I guess every note that I say on the show is personal. I just want to wish everybody out there a very happy Thanksgiving. One of the things that I am most thankful for in my own life is this community. This has been a tough year. I know somebody personally who passed away right after getting over COVID from what are probably COVID complications. So it directly affected my life. I know that many people are out of work, and I know that this year has been a rough one. And I am so glad a lot of you here have stuck with me and continue to write me thoughtful letters and participate in the chats and support this channel and just be the people that you are. I can't tell you what the film festival entries have meant to me personally. The fact that just making up a film festival on the spot, if no one came, if no one made films, well, that would have left me with a lot of egg on my face. But everybody who has made films, including members of the Post-Geek Singularity, such as Trinidad the Island Man, and of course, all the other filmmakers that have, it's just been great to have a community of people that are participating. BL Alley. I never thought a man sitting on the toilet would make me laugh, but I have to tell you, in BL Alley's movie The Trip, it never ceases to amaze me. I have a trailer that I've been making for the film festival. I'm really going to promote the film festival once all the entries are up. For the first 2 weeks of December, I'm really going to push the festival hard. I think all the filmmakers deserve a lot more eyeballs on their movies than they're getting. So I would ask everybody to look at the films, because everybody, people have done some great work, and I've been touched and surprised and delighted by it all, and there's still stuff coming in all the time. So I want to thank you all for that. But most especially, I think that we can all agree that we can go into 2021 together. We've gone through the crucible that is 2020, and maybe we're all better people for it. And I hope, if nothing else, this Thanksgiving we can be reminded of what it's like to have friends and family and a community like this one. And it certainly means a lot to me, and you guys mean a lot to me. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done for me personally, the support of this channel, the letters people write me, the direct messages on Twitter, and everywhere. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for being, all of you people, for being who you are. So thank you. And that's about it. That's all I wanted to say. And I hope everyone has a good Turkey Day. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do a show tomorrow. It is Thanksgiving. However, I am going to try and put up as many of the remaining things. I've been sitting on things. I'm going to put up trailers. I might put up trailers before, like I've got a few trailers to play. I might put those up before movies because I think that'd be kind of cool. And so I've got those to put up. And yeah, so tomorrow will be a day where I don't know how many hours of the day. I think I might start at 10 a.m. But like all afternoon on the hour, I'm going to have the entries for the film festival going up. So I hope everybody takes a look. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I'd say to everybody, well, I can't say go watch Dawn of the Dead, but I'm gonna. I'm just kidding. Anyway, have a better day.